welcome everyone to the first ever episode of Across the South. Before we get started, I felt like since this is the first episode, before we get into everything, all the topics that we're talking about today, I figured I'd let you know a little bit about me, your host, Aubrey Kelly. I graduated in 2023 from the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting at Full Sail University with a bachelor's degree in sportscasting. And that has allowed me to uh, learn a lot about editing, what it is to present yourself in front of a camera, how to talk into a mic to keep an audience engaged, and hopefully I'm able to bring all of that into this video for your viewing and audio pleasures, and just to kind of go into why I created Across the South. I was born and grew up in an SEC state, so I've always been raised with this traditional culture that is based around the Southeastern Conference. And once I got enrolled and started getting into Full Sail, they asked me like, what is it that you want to do with this degree? Like, where do you want to go? What job do you want to have? And people are like, I want to be a producer. I want to work for the NFL, for the MLB, whatever it was. But my answer was to one day work with SEC Network, covering all things from football, baseball, basketball, track and field, whatever it may be, as long as it was the SEC. And so I will say that I do have I do have a full-time job. I work 9 to 5:30 Monday through Friday. Sometimes I get off a little bit earlier, but this is a one-man show. It's just me. I'm producing, editing, recording, writing the scripts, doing it all. And so it does take a little bit of time to get everything put together from a Saturday to whenever I do decide to record, so that I can get it posted on whatever day it is that I decide. I haven't really figured it out. I'm either going to do like a Wednesday so that you get your information early while it's still fresh on your mind from a Saturday game, or it's going to be scheduled for Fridays. That way you can get all your information from last week, get a little bit more information for this next upcoming week, strictly talking about football right now. But there will be some episodes where it's just all around different topics of like Heisman candidates, the best quarterback in the SEC, coach's hot seat, whatever it may be. But I definitely wanted to just give you a little bit of a rundown of who I was, my background, so that way moving on for further episodes, and especially into this episode, you know who I am, what it is I'm doing, why I started this. And other than that, let's roll the intro. All right, so these first set of topics, we're basically just going to do a summarization of week 3 in the SEC for the football season. I know week 3 is a weird week to jump in on. I didn't fully have this idea developed until now. I couldn't do it before week 1 in the start of the season. So we're going to kind of do a summation of those 2 weeks while also talking about week 3. And so starting off with Saturday, wake up, football's on the mind, but you got things to do. And so that morning I didn't really get to watch the 11 a.m. kickoffs with Oklahoma Temple, Wisconsin, Alabama, those games. Didn't really get to watch them, but I'm gonna do my best to kind of go through with them as much detail as I was possibly able to research in the time that I had. So we're going to start with Oklahoma and Temple. And right now, John Mateer is the guy. 1, for Oklahoma. 2, he is the number 1 Heisman candidate as of right now. So they've had a great pickup. He was originally at Washington State. He transferred over to Oklahoma. And, you Sooners, you've got a lot of blessings because Baker Mayfield actually called Mateer and told him, you need to come play for Oklahoma. And that was ultimately the deciding decision, was Baker Mayfield getting on the phone and telling Mateer, you need to come here. And you look at how he plays It's very similar. Like that's the best comp I can come up with as of right now. He passes well. He's got great field vision. He's able to run the ball, and he's kind of got this come and get it attitude. Like if you're gonna beat us, you've got to beat me. And I mean that's all you can ask for in a quarterback. Not only being a leader, but being able to have that confidence on the field, especially going from Washington State to an SEC school where the record last year wasn't all that great. It's a breath of fresh air for Oklahoma to have this type of quarterback, and especially being the Heisman frontrunner right now. You might think, well, Arch Manning, where's Arch been? Mateer has already had his Heisman moment. He beat Michigan in week 2. You know, like he's already kind of proven himself as being this competitive quarterback who can go out, win big games, lead his team to victory, and it's all around just amazing to watch. He's going to be a great quarterback to watch through the rest of this season, especially this next week. It'll be really fun to watch as Oklahoma goes against Auburn. We'll kind of get towards the significance of that game a little bit later, but you know, his stats for week 3, he was 282 yards through the air, 51 yards rushing, and a touchdown. They have got a great running back in Torrey Blaylock as well. He rushed for 100 yards and had a couple touchdowns. Overall, the Sooners took on Temple handily, 42-3. I'll definitely be watching the game between them and Auburn this week for week 4. But you know, it's a special talent with John Mateer there at Oklahoma, and it's going to be really fun to watch as the season progresses. What they do with him and how his career grows. Moving on, we've got Wisconsin versus Alabama. This one I thought was going to be a lot closer, especially with Alabama's week 1 performance against Florida State, but that's kind of a thing of the past at this point. You know, the freak out of, oh man, where Kalen DeBoer doesn't know what he's doing. Bring back Nick Saban. You've got a new quarterback with Ty Simpson, who in this game was near perfect, 24 of 29, 382 yards and 4 touchdowns. He performed well. That first game, you know, week 1, you there's normally this early judgment of, well, we can write off the season. You can't. You haven't had enough information. You haven't watched him enough, and clearly you haven't watched him enough because that Florida State game was tough to watch. The defense wasn't there. Your offense wasn't able to perform. It's first game jitters. That's always a thing. You practice all summer and in the spring to get ready for these moments, but you never truly know what it's like until you're on the field when you've got 50,000 plus 70,000 up to 100,000 people in a stand screaming, and you feel the rumble under your feet of, oh crap, it's game time. You know, that the nut up or shut up moment. You gotta buckle it up and tie your cleats on tight because you got to go out there and perform. And I will say that he did do that this game. Kalen DeBoer, he's got his team clicking right now. The first week jitters gone. They've outscored their last opponents 111-14. Think about that. You go from week 1 where you lose to Florida State on the road in Tallahassee, and then your next 2 games, especially against Wisconsin, who's normally puts up a decent fight against Alabama, and you've outscored your last 2 111-14. By the way, week 2, shutout. No points scored. The only 14 points came from this game against Wisconsin. It was a 14-38 final. Not to mention, I know I talked about Ty Simpson's, but Ryan Williams, the wide receiver for Alabama, my goodness, 5 receptions, 165 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I got to see some of the highlights. There was one just streaks down the field, jukes the defender out of his cleats, jogs into the end zone. I mean, that guy has a bright future ahead of him. You can make the comp as being like Devontae Smith, the previous wide receiver at Alabama. He's got a lot of speed. He's lanky, but man, he's got great hands and he knows how to move an open field. Bama will be entering a bye week for week 4, but they come back week 5 against Georgia, who had a wild, crazy game in week 3. We'll get to that a little bit more later on. Continuing on with the morning slate, South Alabama versus Auburn. Jackson Arnold is working beautifully under Hugh Freeze. He's got a newfound confidence since he left and transferred from his old school, Oklahoma. Do you see what I was referencing earlier with this week 4 matchup between Oklahoma and Auburn? Arnold threw 13 of 24, 142 yards, 3 touchdowns. One of those was passing. The other 2 touchdowns to combine for 3 were rushing on the ground. And this is one thing that's kind of been building with Hugh Freeze ever since he got the job back at Auburn. We're not seeing the success. Where is the success? You know, they've had some slow starts, some slow seasons, some kind of mid records, like you're winning, but are you really? And it wasn't just, no one really called for him to get fired yet. They didn't like it. They weren't enjoying it, but Hugh Freeze definitely made a promise that something special was coming to Auburn, and so far that's being upheld. You know, he told his older guys whenever he came in, I'm sorry that you're not going to get to experience what's coming to Auburn. And boy, has he held true to that so far. They're 3-0. They're ranked for the first time since 2021. And it's the first time since Freeze's hire in 2022 that Auburn has been ranked. So you can see the significance in this Auburn team so far. Now, they haven't played an in-conference opponent, but they will going against Oklahoma. Highlighting a running back for Auburn, you have Jeremiah Cobb. He had 19 carries, went 119 yards, and a touchdown, and he's had a career-high 3 touchdowns in 4 games. So that's pretty significant when you can have a guy like Jackson Arnold go out there, be able to pass the ball really well, something that Auburn hasn't had a lot of success with in the QB position, but now they've got Arnold. He didn't have a great start with Oklahoma in their first year in the SEC last year in 2024, but he's transferred over to Auburn and he's held up. He's done really, really well, and so I think it's going to be really interesting to watch. He says there's no animosity towards his old school at Oklahoma, but it's definitely one of those you kind of want to prove yourself. You don't want to go out there and not do well. You'd rather go out there and be like, yeah, I transferred. You missed out on me, rather than Oklahoma being like, oh boy, I'm sure glad we got rid of that guy. You don't want that. You'd rather go out, lead your team to 4-0, 1-0 in conference. You beat Oklahoma, who beat Michigan, who's a higher rank. You're kind of rooting for Auburn as in that way, unless you're an Oklahoma fan, then you're not caring about Auburn. You want to beat them. Then we look towards Louisiana versus Missouri. Missouri has been on a tear here recently, but also they've yet to face an in-conference opponent. They also have one of the easier schedules in the SEC, so it's hard. It's always hard to judge Missouri, because you look at them on paper and you think, wow, this team is so good. But there comes a point in time where it's like everyone now is looking at the strength of schedule. That's what gets you into the playoffs, especially being expanded into a 12-team playoff. Later on in the years, they're looking at 16, 18 teams for the college football playoffs. They don't need to do too many. I think 12 right now is really good. I'd like to see this year maybe another year of 12, and then you could look at like 14 or 16. I have different views. I think that all conference champions should just be put in a tournament position because you've won your conference. You've proven you're the best in that conference. Now go prove you're the best in the nation. But I'm not head of directors or on the board for the NCAA, so there's not much I can do except just talk about it. But Missouri absolutely dominated the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Ahmad Hardy led the way with 250 yards on 22 carries with 3 touchdowns. Altogether, Missouri rushed for 427 yards on 62 carries. That's crazy because if you've ever watched Missouri or seen Missouri highlights, you know that they like to pass the ball. Eli Drinkwitz, the head coach, loves to pass the ball. He's almost, I don't want to compare him to the great late Mike Leach, but it's not a full on air raid, but he mixes it up. He knows how to run the ball, set up a play action, go deep. He's got fast receivers with great hands. So to see that they just ground and pounded the ball against Louisiana is a whole new way of watching Missouri football. Um, you give them the benefit of the doubt because they played a team who lost their quarterback in the season opener, the Louisiana's quarterback. So it's like, yeah, you're playing against a backup quarterback, and they're not that great of a team. But still, you go out and you dominate like that. They're always competitive. They score a lot of points. The first few games they've scored over 50 points in each week so far, it's crazy. But I think once they reach a conference opponent, the story might be a little different. Whenever you're playing in conference, you have that chip on your shoulder. You're playing for something. This is when it counts. The out of conference schedule and opponents are for your overall record. Like, you don't want a losing record, you like a winning record overall. But when you're in conference, you've got to work your way to that championship. You've got to prove why you are the best of the best in the SEC or the Big Ten, Pac-12, whatever your conference may be. It's all the same, except the SEC is better. Anyway, I digress. The first 3 games have been at home for Missouri, so that's a big benefit as well. They have yet to go on the road, so that home field advantage is very beneficial no matter what your team. When you're playing at home and you're in front of your home crowd, it's a different energy. You're performing for them, in front of them. You're not having to go against the elements, so to speak, where you have the crowd behind you cheering you on, telling you, yeah, go get them, score, big play. Everyone's cheering. It's not, oh my gosh, can we stop them, please, please. It's no. Which, by the way, their next game will be at home as well, so there's that. But it will be a conference opponent, so this will be the test. However, the test is against South Carolina. If you stayed up late enough and you watched the game, you know how it ended. I'll get to it later on. I think it'll make for a good game. It'll make for an interesting game. I also think that Missouri's just going to do what they do, air the ball out, pick on the weaknesses that South Carolina does have, if they haven't made the adjustments and fixed them. But it'll be an interesting game. I think it's a late game, a late airing for South Carolina and Missouri this weekend. Okay, so I ran all my errands that morning. Come back home. Football's on. It's about 2:30. Well, probably 3 o'clock. Games had already been playing. Get set up, and this is where I need to take a moment to brag about ESPN. They have brought the NFL Red Zone to college football. I'll hold for applause. Everyone get it out. Your gasp. No way. Yes. It's really cool. So it's the ESPN Multiview. That's what they've called it. It's Multiview. It's not really like College Game Day Red Zone. It doesn't have a name like that. But it does work in the same way, in the same manner. So you don't have to flip your channels for games that are on ESPN networks. I'm talking ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ABC on ESPN, and SEC Network, which is paired with ESPN. If anybody knew that or not, now you do. But I mean, it's nonstop action except for commercial breaks and halftime. If you want to tune in to a certain game, like if I was watching Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, UTEP, Iowa State, Arkansas State, and then Pittsburgh versus West Virginia. Those were the games that were on whenever I was watching. So if Tennessee, Georgia went to commercial, you just move and hover over um, Pitt and West Virginia, and then you get the audio from that game. So it's like, oh, there's a flag on Texas. What's that about? Doot doot. You just move on over to it, highlights, holding, whatever the call may be or whatever happened. You get the live audio from that game. All the other games silence. So it's really nice, especially if you're wanting to watch multiple games. You know, later on in the season, come October, when you've got all these big hitting games in conference game, you're like, I want to watch that one. Oh, but I want to watch this one too. Now you can with the ESPN Multiview. I mean, I didn't know they did it until I turned it on and I watched it, and it's a game changer. I think I got up 3 times. And one of those was to go get food. So, but I mean, it was really cool to watch. It's a great experience. I'd like to see them do a little bit more outside of just 4 games. I know they can't because it's all based around just ESPN channels. But if they can broaden it and make it a little bit more, couple different games, where it's not just ESPN games. But I understand that they're within borders on what they can and cannot show. But I digress. We're back to game summation, game summaries. I don't know what to call it. We're learning as we go. This is episode 1. So we're rolling with everything right now. So we'll go to Georgia versus Tennessee, which is one of the games. And man, oh man, when I turned on the channel, when I turned on ESPN, the game, the multiview, it was already 21-7 Tennessee. And my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe that Tennessee already had a 2-point lead over Georgia in the first quarter. Not inning, this isn't baseball. But in the first quarter, it was so interesting because you're thinking, oh, they're going against Georgia. Georgia's Georgia. Tennessee struggles against Georgia. It's a good game. Sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. But here in the past, they haven't. And, that trend continued, but it continued in an exciting way. Went into overtime. It really did look like a conference championship game, maybe even like a playoff game, a national championship if they were on differing sides of the bracket. But, I mean, it was everything you wanted in a college football game. You had the lead. You had the comeback. You had it neck and neck. You had the late lead. And then you watch the kick go wide right. And then it goes to overtime. And then you go home crying in your van. Whatever it may be. I don't know. It was different for Georgia fans. But I will say Tennessee they looked great. Joey Aguilar is the greatest thing to happen to him right now. They were smart not to pay Nico, who was asking for way too much money as a college student, who's now at UCLA, whose head coach got fired because they haven't won a game. Anyway, I digress. Good job, Tennessee. Aguilar went 24 for 36, 4 touchdowns through the air, 1 passing, 4 touchdowns through the air, 1 rushing, and he passed for a total of 371 yards. So he had a great game all around. You can't knock him. It wasn't a poor performance by any team. It was just who had more grit, who got down and dirty, who got lucky. I'll let that one sit for a little bit. Because, Georgia had a slow start. And the comeback was great to watch, to see them kind of come together. They didn't hang their heads down. They didn't say, oh, man, this one's over. I mean, even with the kick, they knew like it could have been over then. It wasn't. Kirby Smart even post game, he was quoted talking to the reporter. He said they have a strong offense that's creative, and I don't know why I have it there, but what? Oh, I messed up my notes, so I don't have that quote anymore. Because I'm talking about offense that's creative, and Mateer makes it work. That's Oklahoma, not Tennessee. I wish I still had that quote, but I guess I messed that up in my notes somewhere along the way. Uh, but to kind of paraphrase, he said they have a great team. In all honesty, they had the better team. They should have won, but they just happened to because of the circumstances. And to be a head coach and say like, yeah, we've to take a win nonetheless, and say no, we still have to work on things. We weren't the best team out there. We didn't perform like we should have, like we're known for doing. Um, so he's gonna definitely take his team through the week at practice and saying, look, this is where we need to improve. This is where we got beat. Watching film, their passing defense wasn't all that great. They got beat on a couple passes. They're probably having to get used to a mobile quarterback, which, facing South Carolina. I don't know who's all on their schedule, but there's a lot of mobile quarterbacks in the conference right now. One thing that I thought was crazy. Oh well, before we get to that, let me talk about Georgia a little bit more. Gunnar Stockton, the quarterback transfer for Georgia, has been a good fill for Carson Beck right now. Carson went and transferred to Miami for the money, I'm guessing. I don't know. I never know. The NIL is so weird now that it's hard to tell who's going to be competitive, who's doing it for the money, who's going to go to a college that's going to get them to the professional level. And it all just solely depends on your performance. Can you perform in high pressure environments? Can you go and lead your team on a game winning drive? Can you make the right decisions on a pass, on a read option? Can you call an audible if you have that option? You've got to be able to judge a player by those standards. And so far, Gunnar Stockton has shown that he can do it. They started off slow. He wasn't the best at getting everything passing wise, doing the right decisions, whatever it may be. But after halftime, he got his act together. He started to settle. He understood. I mean, they were playing at Tennessee. Neyland Stadium is not an easy place to play, especially when it's sold out. They've checkered the stadium. It's loud. You've got everyone cheering against you. You're down 14 points in the first quarter, but he came back and he led his team to a victory. Granted, the field goal helped, but he still did it. The pass. Oh, just a beautiful floater dime pass, back shoulder sideline at the corner of the front corner of the end zone, and an even better catch by the receiver, getting looking back and catching it for the touchdown, keeping his feet in. I mean, it was all around a thing of beauty. I don't watch Georgia regularly, but I mean, you see a catch like that and you can't help but get excited, jump up out of your seat and go, "Oh my gosh, he caught that ball." So I mean, it was a great game to watch, better than UTEP in Texas, which I'm about to get to. God, such a big game. But like, credit to them. I'm sure we'll see them play each other again later on in the season, postseason. I'm sure they're going to face each other. They both have great teams, great offenses, good defenses. Sometimes it's lacking, but they are able to just continue to progress, and they've shown that all through the years that they are working to get better, to stay better. Georgia's always got a big target on their back with all the national championships, the same way that Alabama did. You beat Alabama, you storm the field, you go crazy because it's Alabama. Georgia's now kind of taken that over. They're trying to keep it. They want that dynasty. They want that everlasting dynasty. So they're trying to continue that. But all good things come to an end. So it all just depends on when. And it's looking like Texas's is now. So going to UTEP versus Texas, you have Arch Manning not being a Manning, pretty much. He was 9 for 22 for 97 yards in the season opener versus Ohio State. And he was 11 for 25, 114 yards, one touchdown pass from like 12 yards out, and then two rushing touchdowns from 2 and 5 yards out. So not crazy. And he also had an interception. And this is when you face a team like UTEP, University of Texas El Paso, the Miners, you kind of think it's going to be similar to week 2, where every SEC, I say every, majority of SEC teams went and won, putting up 70 points on the board. They put up 20. Not only did they just put up 20, they put up 20 against one of the worst passing defenses in the nation. So what does that tell you? Maybe too much pressure on Arch Manning. That name holds a lot of weight. Maybe he didn't get enough game time last year whenever he was back up for Quinn Ewers. Maybe he was just overhyped. You know, maybe that Manning name carried more weight into his college career and his recruitment than his talent. And I'm not trying to knock Arch Manning by any means. You know, he is a Manning. He's had that grow up with Eli, Peyton, Archie. You know, so like he understands how to be a quarterback. He understands that position from multiple Hall of Famers experiences, and they're teaching him and trying to get him to be better so that he can keep the Manning legacy going. You know, he didn't go to Tennessee like Peyton did. He didn't go to Ole Miss like Eli did. He went to Texas. You know, he chose a good school to go to because they are competitive. They've always been competitive. Even in their first year in the SEC last year, they went to the conference championship, made a decent run in the college football playoffs. They didn't get the job done, but like Steve Sarkisian has a great team at Texas. So he knows what he's doing. It's just trying to figure out what the issue is. And Steve Sarkisian is a quarterback. He's a quarterback coach. So it's probably hard on coach as well to be able to figure out what's going on with Arch, why he's overthrowing his receivers, because again, UTEP, bad passing defense, he had guys open. You know, they had that streak, that deep ball, and Arch would throw it, and it would go, and go, and go, until it landed 3 yards in front of his receiver, uncatchable. But like that's the thing. He's overthrowing. He has bad reads. He sidearm throws. He can only complete like short passes for the touchdowns. Like I said, the two rushing touchdowns, one touchdown from like 12 yards out on a slant. But at that same position, that same field position, scrambles to the left field line, left sideline. Turns around, scrambling. He's trying to make something happen. Okay, he's keeping the play going. He's trying to make something happen. The issue, he tried too hard, and he threw it at a defender. Because he was moving and trying to do so much, you know, it's one of those you can either run it, try to get some yards, even though you dropped 10 yards back from where you already were in shotgun, so 15 yards total from the line of scrimmage. So you can either try to run, you can throw it away, you know, throw it in the back of the end zone, so there's no intentional groundings, but you waste it down, but you don't put the ball in harm's way. But he chose to put the ball in harm's way, tried to thread the needle, tight zone, tight pocket to try and pass through, tight window, that's the term, window. Tried to pass it through that, and I mean, just right to a UTEP defender. You got to make better decisions than that. And, you know, again, we're in week 3. You expect him to grow a little bit better and get better to figure out his mistakes, what's wrong, if it's his form, whatever it may be. But I'm sure Steve Sarkisian's going to get that fixed. Next is Alcorn State versus Mississippi State. Mississippi State right now is off to a great start. They won 2 games all around last year. 2. They're now at 3-0. So, I mean, it's great. Jeff Lebby has got everything going good for him right now. It's their first 3-0 start since 2018, and it was also their first shutout since 2017. So, their defense is doing really good as well. You can look back at week 2. They had a big win over Arizona State with they had I call it a walk-off. It's not a walk-off because this isn't baseball, but the final 30 seconds, he finds his receiver just a little post route. Hits him on a post route, green grass, safeties came down, so he's behind the safeties. All he's got to do is beat one man. He does just that. Runs all the way across the field from the right sideline to the left corner pylon, and just kind of jogs it in. He was faster, scored the touchdown, win the game, and that was a crazy game to watch as well. But you got to give credit to Jeff Lebby. He's got his offense going. He's got his quarterback getting a lot of confidence. I believe he was injured last year, which is why he didn't play a lot. I'd have to do a little bit more research to figure out that altogether. But his defense is doing really well too. They forced 3 turnovers this game, so they're. Mississippi State is one of those teams where you look at them last year, you go, well, can they be better? They've already made that point. They've reached that goal. They're better. How long can it last? Can they beat in conference? Can they be as competitive as they normally are? And, that's going to be the story moving on through this season is how much better can they get? How much better did they get from last year? And, what all are they going to improve on? Okay. Next game. A lot of close games this past weekend. We're going with the Dr. Pepper College Football Game of the Day. I think that's the whole title. It's a mouthful, but that's what they're calling it. I don't make the titles. But it was Arkansas versus Ole Miss. I'm going to lead off with this. The over-under for this game, total points, was set at 63.5. College football game. Score set 63.5. In the first half alone, the first half, teams combined for 59 points and 634 yards of offense. 59 points. If you didn't take the over, I'm sorry, you lost money. You shouldn't have. These two teams always go head-to-head, high scoring, which is probably why the over-under was set at 63.5. But to have 59 points in the first half alone. They also went 7 for 7 in the red zone. Each time they got in the red zone, they scored. And neither team had a turnover or a punt in that first half. The broadcaster jinx happened. It happened. So the Arkansas true freshman leading off. Arkansas starts with the ball, drives down the field, misses the 43, 50-something yard field goal. He made one against in the season opener from 52 yards. He's a true freshman, and he makes it from 52 yards. You're thinking, wow, this is great. You're at home. You're playing Alabama A&M. There's not much pressure on that kick. Week 1, hey, go out there, see if you can do it. Preseason Cam Little in Jacksonville, 70 yarder, 72 yarder, 71 yarder, something crazy. He was like, yeah, just go for it. It's preseason. This doesn't matter. It's week 1. You're up however many points. I think they were up a touchdown. They're just like, yeah, go see what you can do. He makes it. This is different. You're on the road in the SEC at Ole Miss. There's pressure. And I understand you want to build his confidence. You want to get him in those situations. Be like, hey, this is what it's going to be like. Go for it. build that confidence up. Maybe he's gone home and said, okay, hey, put some loudspeakers around of crowds cheering and chanting while I'm kicking these field goals. Get me used to that. But that's one of those, you either go for it and deal with the bad field position. I mean, I guess they dealt with the field position either way, but like you either go for it if it's short yardage, since you're there in the red zone or just outside the red zone, try to get a first down, or you let them kick it. They chose to let them kick it, and that ultimately kind of led to their downfall. 2 missed field goals. You lost by 6 points. Those were big field goals that you needed to make. But you do what you can. You've got the highest rated offense in the nation, so like you're gonna score points. Little jump cut there. My camera died, so all of my recording and everything else went along with it. But we're gonna just try and pick back up from where we left off. I think I was talking about it'll come to me. I think I was talking about how impactful Arkansas's offense was, that you have the leading offense, the number 1 rated offense in the nation. And you couldn't get the job done. I mean, you've got such a great quarterback in Taylon Green, a great pickup, who has improved amazingly in his second year under offensive coordinator Bobby Petrino since his transfer from Boise State last year. He threw behind his receivers. He only had 1 target receiver. Now he's going through his progressions. He's making accurate throws. He's making better decisions. He's going to more than 1 wide receiver. He's rushed for 111 yards, threw for 305 yards against Ole Miss, and he's had 50-plus point scores in the first 2 games. Overall, through the first 3 games, 1,173 yards of total offense, 391 yards total offense per game, 307 passing yards, 102.3 rushing yards per game. I mean, he's this great mobile quarterback. You can relate him and compare him to Lamar Jackson, who was under Bobby Petrino in Louisville. But the defense has to be better. Give credit to Lane Kiffin in Ole Miss. I mean, he's got their number. He's won 6 of the last 8 meetings. I don't think he's been hired on that long. He might be. He might have. But I mean, 6 of the last 8 have gone to Ole Miss. And this is the first time he's had 3 consecutive wins over Arkansas since 1990 to 1993. That's the last time that Ole Miss has had a consecutive win streak, a 3-game consecutive win streak over Arkansas. So you got to give Lane Kiffin credit. He did it with a backup quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss. Going into that game knowing that Austin Simmons isn't going to be playing because he has an injured ankle, they can't be too risky with a backup quarterback. They're going to pass short. They're going to run the ball. They have great running backs. Ole Miss has always had great running backs. They're going to run the ball. You have to find a way to stop them. I mean, when there was one play, receiver goes slot, which is between the farthest wide out near the sideline and the offensive line. He lines up right there in the middle. Whether it was a safety, a linebacker, whoever it was, they lined up shaded outside. They didn't want to give him the outside. The short side of the field, you're going to stand there. What happens next? 1, 2, 3, cuts inside towards the linebackers where it's open field. So if my memory serves me right, a linebacker did go out there and then just it's a quick, easy dump pass. He already knows, because of how your defense is shaded outside, that he's going to go to that receiver on the inside, and with no one there, the safety's playing back. The other linebacker's either blitzing, QB spying, or, some sort of zone. So he's not going to be there to pick up that receiver. Then he's got open field to run, and that's what happened so often in this game. Their defensive backs were supposed to be better. They should be better. I mean, you're playing Memphis next weekend, who has a pretty decent record when it comes to Power 4 and 5 schools when playing in Memphis. So you got to be careful there. And then you play Notre Dame the week after that. Your defense is going to have to be better. I mean, again, you look at the offense with Taylen Green. You think, wow, he leads the nation. He's the first Razorback in history to rush for 100 yards and pass for 300 yards in a single game. With those types of numbers, you win the game. But not if your defense can't force turnovers or punts like Ole Miss's can. You get down to, I think it was around the 20-yard line, and all the commentators are saying this is smart. You run the clock down to 2 minutes. It's a free timeout. No sense in running a play. Don't waste a timeout, because each team both had a timeout left, 2 timeouts left. Don't waste your timeouts. You want to score, but you also want to run off the clock. You've passed the ball so much to get to that position. You're now there. You want to hold on to that ball as long as you can. How do you hold on to that ball? You hand it off. You risk a turnover. Now, granted, you can look at when the Baltimore Ravens were playing the Buffalo Bills in week 1. Derrick Henry gets the ball on a run, fumbles. It's not... You can't blame anyone for this loss. I mean, you can, but the missed field goals hurt you. Taylen Green had a heck of a performance. It's just Ole Miss's defense knew they had to make something happen. Otherwise, the probability of losing went up a little. So that's what they did. They, a screen pass, but the linebackers stayed home, shifted outside, watched the receiver cut across. I believe it was C.J. Brown. Cut across on a little shallow route, gets the ball, and he's surrounded by 3 defenders because the wideout, or tight end, whoever it was, they didn't get the block. The block gets shut, and then he's surrounded by 3-4 Ole Miss defenders. So they can hold him up. Granted, it's frowned upon, but they don't have to tackle him and put him down right away. They can hold him up, try to strip the ball, and it's a fight for your life when you've got 3 200-pound men punching and ripping at a ball inside of your hands. So you gotta find ways. I mean, 7 for 18 in 1-score games for head coach Sam Pittman. 7 for 18, under 50%. And the post game, oh man, this is just a crazy answer. But a reporter brought up this stat, talking to head coach Sam Pittman, being like, what's going to change? What's going to happen? And Pittman basically cuts him off. And he goes, quote, "Yeah, I knew that was coming. I don't know what to do with it. Tell me what to do." You're the head coach. What do you mean tell you what to do? Win. Find a way to win. You're the head coach. You got to be aggressive. It's like you're the pitcher. Your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinators are the catcher. They'll give you the signs. They'll give you the signals. Tell you what pitch. If you don't like it, shake it off. They'll give you something different. You have that say-so. You're the head chef. If you don't like the way something looks on a plate, you're not going to send it out. Redo it. Find something different. Make it better. That's what makes you a head coach. Quoted towards the beginning of his tenure at Arkansas. He said, I've got the best job. I get to sit back, let everybody else do what they need to do. And that's been Pittman's downfall. He's too lackadaisical. Oh, I'll let the offensive coordinator handle the offense. I'll let the defensive coordinator handle the defense. You've got to, at some point, put in your own 2 cents and say, this has got to change. This is what we're going to do. Otherwise, you're going to be 7-19, 7-20 in 1-score games. And when you come up against Notre Dame in 2 weeks, you're going to have to do something like Texas A&M did. And that's get away with a holding call. Moving on, the other 2 games, these were also in the multi-view. You had Florida and LSU, Vandy and South Carolina. So I got to watch some of these. I got to watch all 3 of these at the same time. It made for some entertainment. It did. It kind of raised more questions than anything. Starting Florida and LSU, in the past and continuing on, anytime Florida plays LSU, it's their, I don't want to say it's their championship game, but they come to play. It's like they come to prove a point. Like, if we beat LSU, we are something. It's every time these 2 teams meet. There is the shoe throw from a couple years ago, and then pregame before this year's, there's chatter on the sideline. Everyone's getting in each other's faces, yapping, just like, yeah, we coming for you. And then you go and throw 5 interceptions. You got to do something. I thought that DJ Lagway was going to be Billy Napier's saving grace. Looking at last year, he was. The hot seat got a little bit colder. Then it started to rise again and get a little bit warmer. And it went from, let's go Gators, and it flips, fire Billy Napier. Florida fans are used to greatness. They want to continue that. Every team wants to continue that. But you've got to do something. And I think this is going to be Billy Napier's last chance. It's I made the comparison that DJ Lagway is in like a Browns organization. He's a great quarterback, talented quarterback outside of the 5 interceptions he threw this game. But when the coach around you, when everything around you just isn't working, you can only do so much. Overall, Florida pretty much beat themselves, won the 5 interceptions that I keep bringing up. But penalties, so many penalties. They had an 87-yard touchdown, I believe, to take the lead, and it was brought back for holding. And then it forced a punt because they couldn't convert anymore. You've got to be more disciplined, and it seems like everything is chaotic and out of control. You threw a ball in the air, lost it in the sun, and you don't know where it's going to land. I know that's a horrible analogy, something along those lines. I don't know, comment down below, or a different thing, something. But looking at LSU's side of things, like in the first 3 minutes, they lost their number 1 linebacker, Whit Weeks, to a targeting call. Big miss for LSU. He's such an impactful player, and he's going to play a part in this game and in the decision that it's going to go. Florida, when you have an advantage like that, take advantage of it. Whit Weeks is speedy. He's a hard hitter. He's smart. He's got wits. But you can turn this off now. I'm kidding. Stay, please. But I mean, you got to do something with a missing component like that in LSU's defense. Now, looking at, because neither team had a good offensive performance, it was a 20-10 final score. 20-10. You get 5 interceptions, you score 20 points. Make it make sense. It doesn't. LSU had 7 punts the whole game. That's crazy. You have returning quarterback Garrett Nussmeier, and you're punting 7 times. What? You're at home. You're at LSU. Where's the uproar? Where's Death Valley the way that it's always been? Where you have such a large advantage at home. Look at Neyland Stadium when they played Georgia. That was a game. And Tennessee stayed in it until the very end. You just kind of... I don't know the words. I don't. Head coach Brian Kelly was asked post game, and I'm paraphrasing here, but pretty much like, what's going on with the offense? Why aren't you able to convert on third downs? Why, like, just what's pretty much just what's going on with the offense? And Brian Kelly snapped, because I think he's been just trying to prove a point that he is a head coach, or that he is there to a good head coach. I don't know. I'm not trying to talk down on Brian Kelly, because he is a good coach. He'd had a good career at Notre Dame, and then he came to the SEC to prove himself, and he's working his way towards a championship. But, you know, he's banging on the podium, banging on the stadium, like, I'm mad. Well, he did it again, and just what? You want me to go out there and win 70-0? That's not what the guy asked. He asked, like, what are the issues? You get 5 free possessions off interceptions, and yet you've only put up 20 points. Like, what's going on? There's problems. You know, you could look at it as you get in a fight with your girlfriend and you take it out on the dog. Dog didn't do anything. He's just there. That's why you're yelling at it. Go to your locker room, figure out your problems with your offense. Plain and easy. And something's got to change. You have Garrett Nussmeier back. He decided to forego the NFL draft. He comes back because he wants to do something. You're probably the best team to go and win the conference championship, to get to the playoffs. You missed out last year. You get your quarterback returning. A lot of other people transferred and went to the draft from other teams. You've got your full team, pretty much. You should be winning these games, but you should be winning them by a larger margin, especially when your defense performed as well as they did. Anywho, moving on towards our last game, which was Vandy and South Carolina. Now, let me tell you something. This Vanderbilt team is different this year for 2025. If you've seen the Netflix documentary Any Given Saturday that followed the SEC, head coach Clark Lea, has got a chip on his shoulder. And he's here to not give a crap about anyone in the SEC. He's tired of being walked on, looked down upon, having this, Vanderbilt's a cupcake, easy win, we'll do it mentality from the rest of the conference. No, he's there to prove a point, and so far he's done it. And a lot of that comes from his quarterback, Diego Pavia, because he's got the same kind of chip. Oh, you didn't want to give me an offer? You didn't want me to come play for your school? Okay. Let me show you what you missed out on. Let me show you why you should have recruited me. But I'm going to do it against your team. And then you can see it in person whenever we win, that you missed out. And that's so motivating. Because year in and year out, like growing up watching SEC sports, Vanderbilt was below the dirt of the totem pole. Right now, they're looking great. 3-0. The defense ran a 4-man front pretty much the whole game, forced 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles. I mean, you could say they're out for blood, and I mean, in a way they are, but they're there to prove a point. They're making a stand and saying, look, we're not just nobody, we are somebody, and you're going to have to deal with this whether you like it or not. Leave the cupcakes to your out-of-conference opponents. We're not one anymore. South Carolina side of things, Lenore Seller, Sellers was injured last year. He had to sit out a few games with an ankle injury. That didn't go too well moving forward. This time they lost him again due to a targeting call against Vanderbilt, helmet to helmet. Got him shook up a little bit. I don't know the extent. I don't know if he's under concussion protocol, if he'll be back for week 4 or not. But the backup, Luke Doty, I think Doty, Doty, Luke Doty, remember the name, because you'll probably see him quite a bit if Lenore Sellers can't stay healthy. But he took over for the rest of the game. And South Carolina was just ineffective. They couldn't move the ball. I didn't do too much digging on Doty. Wasn't throwing dots, but they're just ineffective. They couldn't run. They couldn't pass. It's like they say that you're as strong as your weakest link. I think they're as strong as Lenore Sellers, because it seems like whenever he plays, they're pretty good. When he goes down, oh boy, everything goes down. He is an anchor for that team, because when he sinks, the whole boat goes down with it. Anchors don't do that. Anywho, but I mean, Shane Beamer's trying to do the same thing as Clark Lee. He wants to build a culture in South Carolina. It's a great stadium. It's a great place to, great environment. He wants to get it back to the way it used to be. He doesn't want to be under his father's shadow anymore, Frank Beamer, who had a great career at Virginia Tech. But he's trying to make his own name, and it seems like it's just not working for him. He had last year playing against Alabama, close game. They lost, but it was close. They had a lot of close games last year. This one, I think 31-7, 31-14. I don't know, something crazy. But that type of gap in a score in conference is you can't allow that. And it was a home game too, so that's even worse. But that's pretty much the summation of all of week 3. Looking at week 4, this weekend you've got Arkansas at Memphis. Arkansas should win. Could be a sleeper game. Who knows? You have UAB at Tennessee. Tennessee should win that game. You've got Auburn at Oklahoma. That'll be a game to watch, with Arnold going against his former team back in Oklahoma. You have Tulane at Ole Miss. Ole Miss should win. They've got a great offense. Gives Austin Simmons some more time to heal up that ankle. Gives Trinidad Chambliss some time to get a little bit more comfortable. You have NIU at Mississippi State. Mississippi State still not yet playing a conference opponent, so that could be good or bad. They could either gel up really nicely, get the machine going, or they could get too confident, face in conference opponents, get beat, and then you got to build back up from the ground. You have South Carolina at Missouri. This is going to be Shane Beamer's time to really get his team together. Missouri has a good team. South Carolina has a good team. You're playing on the road. You've got to beat up quarterback. You got to figure something out here. You got to find the weak points and whittle away. Lastly, you have Florida at Miami, which is a great in-state rivalry. Florida's going to have to do something there. They either have to keep it close and have a good loss, or they win over the number 4 team in the AP polls. I don't know. Could go. There's interesting games. You've got a lot of the other teams on bye weeks, but there's still some good football. And if you don't like any of the conference teams playing, then I'm sure there's something else on that's gonna tickle your fancy a little bit better. I've got one. So we're done with the summation of everything. I have one last segment, and this is something I'm going to try to do and continue week in and week out. I'll need some help because, again, this is a one-man show. I can only do so much, but there's a lot of faith in the South, but not just in the South, but also in sports, whether high school, college, professional level, it doesn't matter. And most famously is Tim Tebow, back when he was playing at Florida and he had the eye black with John 3:16 written on it. And so I thought it'd be really cool to highlight athletes with scriptures, and I'm going to try to do this for any and all SEC teams where a player could be sporting it, whether in the eye black or on arm tape, something of that sort. But the one I'm going to go with this week is Arkansas quarterback Taylon Green. He had 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 written down his left arm tape. And I do have I've got my Bible here. I'm going to go ahead and read that for you. It says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity." I practiced this before I started reading so I could get that word. "For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline." And I'm looking to do this week in, week out. I've kind of come up with the segment name of Scripture Spotlight. So not only does it spotlight the player, but it also spotlights the Scripture and brings that faith that a lot of those athletes have in Christianity and in Jesus Christ. And I want to do my part as well, because they can wear it and it be shown on TV, but some people have the curiosity to either look it up or to not. And so I'm going to look to be one of those, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess delivery system. And that way, when you listen week in and week out, you can get the information of what we're talking about, but at the same time, you get a little bit of that at the end. I might change it to the beginning because God comes first, but, maybe you want the sports first. We'll figure it out. Again, episode 1, everything's gonna all come together at some point. But that is it for this episode of Across the South, covering everything from kickoff to tip-off and all around the bases when it comes to baseball season. Be sure to follow and share and like. Send it to a friend. Say, hey, listen to this dummy talk about sports for the first time. It's not the first time on camera and podcast, whatever. I try to make it entertaining. I'm going to, at some point, hopefully, get a different background. Yes, I'm in my bedroom. Whatever. Dan Patrick started his show in his attic, and now look at him. I know that's a wild comparison, but we're going to get there. We're going to get a studio, an office, something along the backgrounds for all SEC memorabilia, things of that sort. Who knows, I might get the audience involved at some point, like a P.O. box. I don't know. That's later on. That's the future. We're figuring things out. Anywho, again, be sure to like, subscribe, follow. Comment down below what you'd like to see, what you wouldn't like to see, some different segments, what you want to kind of cover. If you want, like, traditions, like different SEC school traditions, it's all different things. But thank you for listening to this episode, and we will see you next time.